Welcome to Metasport Performance. Today I'm going to be talking about protein sources. I'll be ranking a list of protein sources from S tier to F tier. The rankings are going to be based on the amount of protein per serving, the ratio of protein to fat, the utility of the protein source, how easy is it to cook and use throughout the week, how affordable is it, and I'm going to touch just a little bit on the completeness of the protein. So what proportion of the amino acids does a protein have? So first up on the list, we got a couple heavy hitters. We've got chicken, which definitely I'm putting in the S tier. Super tasty, super versatile, generally very affordable. So chicken, definitely S tier. Next up, beef, same thing. Beef is a great source of protein. That can be a staple in any diet. Whitefish. So the thing with whitefish, things like haddock and cod, nutritionally, they're great. My only problem is I can't eat fish throughout the week, just like personally. I love fish on occasion, but it's not something that you're going to want to reheat. So it just gets knocked down a notch for versatility. If you are down to cook fish every night though, like it's right on par with chicken and beef. But for me personally, I'm just going to downgrade it. So we'll put haddock. Just a little downgrade for versatility, even though nutritionally it's right on par with those two up there. All right, next, pork. Pork is a super great source of protein for very few dollars. I love to take a pork loin, sear it, put it in a crock pot, let that cook, and then I've got a week's worth of protein for just a few dollars, and it takes almost no effort. All right, salmon. So same deal, salmon gets downgraded for the fish factor. There we go. Super healthy, tons of nutrients, tons of healthy fatty acids. It just gets downgraded because cooking salmon every day and reheating it, I guess, just I can't do it. It's not my thing. Tuna, I'm just gonna put tuna along here with the other two. Tuna's great. I love canned tuna. Like, that is a very easy source of protein. You just crack it. I like to mix it with a little mayonnaise, some celery, make a good tuna salad sandwich. But not something that I'm gonna have like every day for weeks on end, like chicken, beef, or pork. All right, shrimp, kind of same thing. Nutritionally, shrimp's great. I love it. Super tasty, but tough to eat enough shrimp to fulfill your protein needs. Tofu. Next on the list is tofu. I'm going to put tofu in the C tier. So the deal with tofu is it's a soy-based protein. It's a complete protein source, meaning it has all of the amino acids, but I'm not a huge fan of eating a ton of soy, so I'm going to put it in the C tier. All right, so the next up on the list is quinoa. I had Gemini AI write up this list for me of protein sources and foods that people think are good protein sources. And quinoa made the list, which surprised me. I didn't know that quinoa is technically a complete protein. It has all of the amino acids. It's one of a few grains that does. But still, it's a grain. It's not a really great source of dietary protein. I'm sure it's healthy. I'm sure it's great, but it's not a great protein source. Similarly, buckwheat, which I don't think I've ever had, but it made the list. Buckwheat. All right, buckwheat. I don't know really what it is. I guess it's a grain. It was listed as one of these complete protein sources, but it's primarily a grain. It's mostly carbohydrates, so it's not really what you're going to use as a protein source. I'm sure it's perfectly healthy. It's probably a great carb source, but for this list, it's going to get sat down here. All right, beans. I think beans fall perfectly in the middle here at the B tier. Very healthy, lots of fiber, which is super good for your digestive health and your cardiovascular health. But I'm going to put beans in the B tier just because eating enough beans to fulfill, like, let's say, for example, if you're a 200-pound man who does resistance training and you should be eating 200 grams of protein per day to put on muscle and preserve your muscle if you're in a caloric deficit, it's going to be really hard to get those 200 grams from beans. Beans are great, super healthy, good for your digestive health. One of the big factors, though, beyond just like the volume of beans that you would need to eat, is beans contain it's a sugar called raffinose, okay, and so basically it might be a sugar or it's a starchy carbohydrate. Either way, it's a molecule in the carbohydrate family contained in beans that your body can't break down, but your gut bacteria can. And so that breakdown, as the bacteria digest the raffinose, it produces a ton of gas. And so that's why beans make you gassy. So I guess that's another factor why beans are going to get downgraded a couple notches to B tier. Very healthy source of protein. I like it as a supplement to other things like rice and beans, classic combination, and you can get a little extra protein in your carb sources. So it's a good source of carbs. It's a good source of protein. It's not great. It's going to sit right there at B. All right. The next couple things, nuts. Nuts contain protein, but they also contain a lot of fat. They contain a lot more fat than they do protein. So while they're a very healthy thing to eat, I'm going to put them here in the D category just because it's a lot of fat compared to the protein that's in them. Nut butters. Similarly, those are going to have a ton of fat compared to the amount of protein. So peanut butter, even though people think it's a great source, I'm going to put it all the way down here. We're just going to go with PB. That's right. Let's make that eligible. Handwriting has never been my strong suit. But peanut butter, that is definitely not a good source of protein. It's mostly fat. Hold up. I take that back. I'm going to write out the whole thing because I have a joke that I want to do. At least it's going to make me laugh. So, peanut butter. The key word in peanut butter is butter. Peanut is the adjective. Peanut butter is mostly a form of butter. It's peanut butter, okay? So it's a fat. It's not a source of protein. It's delicious. I like a nice peanut butter and jelly, but it's not a good source of protein. All right. Next up on the list, whole wheat breads and pasta. Yeah, so those are definitely going to go down here in this category. Whole wheat breads and pasta. Okay, Great carb sources. Love whole wheat breads and pastas, but this is a protein sources ranking. So as a source of protein, they're pretty bad. You're gonna get, a few grams. Maybe if it's, maybe just regular whole grain bread is gonna have 8 grams of protein, 6 grams of protein per slice, depending on how big the slice is. Kind of same idea with a serving of pasta. You might get a few grams of protein in it, but it's a carb source. And even the ones like the protein pastas, that's just pasta with extra gluten added to it. So it's still primarily a carb source, and it's not what you should be using as a protein source. So it's better than like white bread or whatever. It will have like a little bit more protein, but still, it's a carb source. Okay. I'm sure there will be more down there. Yep, there is. Bacon, a favorite of mine. But bacon, not a good source of protein. Delicious, not where you should be getting your protein from. Next, sausage, which probably could be put in the F tier, but I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to put it in the D tier because you could have a little bit leaner sausage. It is a step above bacon, I will say that. That's probably true. But yeah, so sausage, definitely not a tremendous source of protein. And sausage's American cousin, the hot dog. I know they're all like European in origin or whatever, but hot dogs are American. Okay. Not a good source of protein. It's just too much fat. That's the deal with those. Like they're made out of meat, but it's mostly filled with fat. Okay, so the protein to fat ratio is bad. Not to mention, there's probably like other issues with sodium and potentially nitrates. I don't know much about that. Too much sodium is definitely bad. That much I can tell you. I don't know what the deal is with the other stuff that they use to make sausages and hot dogs. I probably don't want to know. All right. Next up, a favorite of mine, and it's going to go in the A tier. Greek yogurt. Okay? Greek yogurt is an awesome source of protein. I have it for breakfast pretty much every day. I like a non-fat Greek yogurt. It's just, you can get, if you double up on the serving size, you can get 30 grams of lean protein with no fat and just a few carbohydrates. Recently, I've been putting honey in my Greek yogurt because I'm trying to put on a little bit of weight this winter. So I've been adding honey to my Greek yogurt just to get a few extra carbs to start my day. So it's a great source of protein though. Super easy to eat if you can process dairy. If dairy is not your thing, too bad, I'm sorry. But Greek yogurt, big fan of it. Next up though, its sibling, just plain old regular yogurt. So I'm going to call that regular yogurt. That's going to go in the C tier. Regular yogurt. All right. So the deal with regular yogurt is it's got protein in it, but the amount of carbohydrates that are still in the yogurt because of how it's processed are going to be really high compared to the amount of protein that should be in there. So like something like Greek yogurt is going to have 2 or 3 times the amount of protein per serving, in like per calorie basically, than regular yogurt would. So I would definitely go with Greek yogurt over regular yogurt, but it's okay. It's a decent source, but it's not great. All right, next up, this is funny. that this made the list. Cream cheese. Cream cheese is going to sit squarely in the F tier. All right. Dude, cream cheese, it's delicious, but it's not a protein source at all. Like, F tier, for sure. I don't know. Like, cream. Like, cream is just fat. It's just pure fat. It's not a protein source at all. I don't know how it made the list. Next up, bone broth, kind of a weird one. I'm going to put it in the C tier. Bone broth is cool for what it is. Like, you can get, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 grams of protein in a serving of bone broth. But the amount that you need to drink to get to use bone broth as like a core source of protein in your diet, I mean, you like to get 200 grams of protein from bone broth, you'd literally have to drink a gallon of bone broth, I think. I don't know. I haven't done the math yet, but I think that you just can't use bone broth as a staple. I love soup. I live in New England. It's December right now. It's cold. It's wicked cold, dude. And soup's great, but you can't have it as a primary source of protein. So it's going to go there in the C tier because it's cool for what it is, but it's just not very useful as like a core protein source. All right. Chia seeds. We're going to put chia seeds in here with quinoa and friends. Evidently, it's a complete protein source, but it's still just a grain, so it's like mostly carbohydrates. So yeah, quinoa, buckwheat, and all that, chia seeds. D tier. I don't care if it's a complete protein. It's mostly carbs. All right, eggs. S tier, for sure. Eggs are basically the gold standard of protein. It's what every other protein source is measured against. The reason for that is that eggs contain all of the proteins, all of the amino acids that are necessary for an animal to develop, because that single egg contains all the amino acids that are going to form a chicken. So eggs contain all the amino acids necessary for life in a really great ratio. They're a good source of saturated fat. That can be a deficit for them as well. Like if you're trying to use eggs as your primary source of protein to fill out your day, it's going to be tough. Like you're going to be consuming a lot of saturated fat, which may be a bad thing, depending on what science you believe or listen to. So, but they're the gold standard, like in terms of amino acid composition, affordability. I know that like recently they're pretty expensive. It's not like it was 10 years ago, but eggs, very useful to cook with, and just they're a great source of protein. So definitely S tier. Next up, milk. So I'm going to put milk in this B tier because it's a good source of protein. And if you're trying to gain weight, milk is excellent. But it does have a lot of carbohydrates. And if you're drinking whole milk or 2% milk, you're going to get a lot of saturated fat along with the protein. So you can't use it to fill all of your protein needs throughout the day, but it's a really good source of supplementary protein, especially if you're trying to put on muscle. So yeah, next up, whey protein. Whey protein, same deal. I'm going to put it in this B category because nutritionally, great supplementary source of protein. You can get like 30 to 40 grams of protein, or maybe 50 if you're doing a double scoop or whatever, in a single serving. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, just because the taste is a little wacky sometimes. The deal with the shaker cups, like it's not for me. Everyone who starts lifting weights and at some point goes through the whey protein phase where they pick up the big tub and they're prepping their shakes for a week or whatever until they start dealing with the nasty shaker cups. And that's kind of why I'm not a huge fan of it, but you can't knock it. Like, nutritionally, it's a great supplementary protein source. So it's definitely going to go in the B tier. Depending on what you're getting, the taste and the digestibility of it can be better or worse. There's a lot of differences in brands and what you're purchasing, but overall, it can be a really awesome source of protein, and so it's going to go in the B category. All right, so that is the end of the list. Just like in review here, we got chicken. So depending on just like how you cook it, you could have chicken can be really great or really bad in terms of nutrition. So like if you're breading and deep frying chicken, you're going to throw off that protein to carbohydrate and fat ratio. And so what I prefer is I like to cook chicken in the oven, and I'll just take like quartered chicken or a whole roast chicken. But usually I'm quartering it up or buying the stuff pre-quartered. So you basically just have like oven roasted chicken with all of the dark meat, all of the wings, all of that. And I like to have whole roasted chicken. I'm not a huge fan of just eating like pure chicken breast by itself. I find that that's kind of tough to cook. If you do it right, if you saute it right, it's, it can be very tasty, but standing over a saute pan or, frying chicken, like for a whole week, I just don't want to do it. I used to do it all the time, but it takes up a lot of time now. I'm busy doing other stuff. So yeah, standing and sauteing a bunch of chicken breast, not my idea of a good time. So I like to roast chicken in the oven now, and I'll just use like the whole pieces, put them on a tray, roast it. And I think that's the way to go about chicken. All right. Same thing, beef. It's S tier, but it has the caveat that like depending on what cut, what cut you get, it could be very fatty. So like ribeye, delicious. I love a ribeye, but the amount of protein that you're gonna get compared to the amount of fat in it is a little low. So like a ribeye, I think actually ends up having almost as much fat, if not more, in terms of grams per serving as it does protein. Don't quote me on that. Just Google it or whatever. But I think that other than that, beef is great. It's lean cuts of beef are excellent. Same thing, like 80-20 beef, that's going to be a lot of fat compared to what the amount of protein in it, or at least it starts to get there. It's not the end of the world, though. It's just something to consider. Pork, if you're on a budget or you don't have a lot of time, pork loin is great. Just like a huge hunk of pork or pork butt. You just put it in the crock pot, and for like, I don't know, $6 to $10, you can have 6 50-gram servings of pulled pork. So yeah, pork is definitely S tier. Eggs, like I said, it's a gold standard. It's what everything else is compared against. So those are definitely going to sit up there firmly in the S tier. The only thing to consider is perhaps the amount of saturated fat that you're getting. So if you're eating something like 6 eggs a day, you're probably okay. If you're trying to do more than that, like let's say that you made, I don't know, quiche for some reason. I don't know, quiche is tasty, but that's going to be a lot of fat compared to the amount of protein in it. And if you look at it through your whole day. So like eggs are a great addition or inclusion into a diet, but in isolation, it's probably gonna be too much fat. So just something to consider. If you really do like eggs and you're gonna eat more than like I said, we'll say if you're a 200-pound person, and these standards aren't like hard fast rules. I'm not a dietitian. This is just a generality that I think would be fine based on my experience and what I would do. If you're gonna eat like more than 4 to 6 eggs a day, I would probably use egg whites instead, just because you're gonna reduce the amount of fat that you're taking in, but you'll be able to take in all of that protein. So that's my thoughts on eggs. All right, the fish, haddock, tuna, salmon, delicious. I love them on occasion. It's not something that I want to be cooking every day, and I certainly don't want to be bringing salmon to, anywhere and reheating it. Like, that's just disgusting. But if you hate your coworkers, tossing some salmon in the microwave is a powerful move. It's a very powerful move. Shrimp. I would love to eat shrimp every day. I think that they're fantastic, but it's just it's not feasible. Greek yogurt. Like I said, Greek yogurt is something that I have every day. It's an A tier protein. You can't have a half gallon of Greek yogurt every day. That would be gross. Like, you need something to chew on, but it's a great source of protein early in the morning. Like, it's easy to digest. You pull it right out of the refrigerator. It's ready to go. So, big fan. All right, beans. Like I said, beans are a good source of protein, very good source of fiber, very healthy food. The only issue is it's tough to get enough beans to satisfy your protein needs, especially if you're somebody who's a larger person, you do resistance training, and you have a large protein demand. Beans are going to be very tough to satisfy all of your protein needs. For example, if you're 200 pounds and you do resistance training, you're going to need 200 grams of protein a day on average. And getting that through beans is just not going to happen. Not pleasantly, at least. I don't want to be around for it. Milk. Milk is great. If you're trying to put on weight, it's awesome. Like, think about what milk is. It's intended to help infant cattle develop as rapidly as possible. So if you need to put on weight, milk's great. If you're trying to lose weight, I would cut out the milk and choose something different, because it's going to have a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of fat if you're using, like I said, a whole or a 2%. But putting on weight, top notch. Whey protein, I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't drink a ton. I don't like the powders and dealing with the shaker cups. Like, that's not my thing. I've been there. I tried it. It doesn't work for me. I'm just not a fan. There's a couple pre-made shakes that I really like out on the market right now, or at least one brand. I like their lineup. There's a couple that are decent. So those are good. There's some stuff that just tastes really synthetic, and I don't like it. So hit or miss. It depends on what your tastes are, what your tolerance is for dealing with protein shaker cups. And anyone who's ever gone through like a beginner lifter phase has tried it, I'm sure, where they're shaking up their whey protein after every workout, and then you start to smell the funk from your shaker cups. Like, you know, even if you wash it regularly, it develops. In the time from the gym to the dishwasher, like in that period of time, it develops this funk. I don't know what fermentation process the bacteria are doing to whatever's in the shaker, but it's disgusting. And so I'm not a huge fan of it, but like the pre-made shakes that are out on the market now are pretty tasty. So whey protein, definitely great supplementary protein source that has been foundational to tons of strength athletes and recreational lifters throughout the years. So it's in the B category. Tofu. Dude, why? Don't be eating tofu every day. Come on. Just don't do it. I don't care. I don't care if it's like a whole protein source. I'm just not down with it. It gets a passing grade. It's a C. It's a C, but not my thing. Regular yogurt, like I said, regular yogurt is, it's okay. It has protein in it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not as good as Greek yogurt, which has probably triple the amount of protein that your standard yogurt does. Bone broth. Hey man, it is what it is. It's cool. Like if you're making soup or you want to have like, I don't know, maybe that's what you start your day out with is like a cup of bone broth. I know that people enjoy that. But yeah, it's not going to fulfill your protein needs. So it's like per serving, it's cool for what it is. I'm going to put it in the C category, but it's not going to be a great source of protein overall. All right. Next up, the flunkies, the failures. Quinoa, buckwheat, chia seeds. That's like, I don't care that they're complete proteins. That's bird food. I don't want to eat bird food. Neither should you. Nuts are tasty. Nuts are really healthy for you, but it's just not a good source of protein. Compare just because it has so much fat in it. Like again, like it has protein. It's, you know, very healthy for you in reasonable quantities, but tons of fat. So not a great source of protein in terms of the overall diet. Sausage, hot dogs. Yeah, they're meat products, but it's mostly fat and seasonings shoved into a casing. Dude, it's just not something that you should be using as like a regular protein source. I love sausage. It's super tasty. A hot dog on the 4th of July is mandatory. But as a protein source in your daily diet, I definitely would not recommend it. All right. Lastly, peanut butter. I'm going to emphasize this again. Butter. It's a type of butter. Don't use it as a protein source. It's tasty. I like it. I've had more peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in my lifetime than I could count. But it's just not a good source of protein overall. Whole wheat breads and pasta. Yeah, they're carbohydrates. If this was a list of sources of carbohydrates, they'd be at the top. But this is a protein ranking. So don't use pastas and breads as a source of protein. Just don't do it. Bacon, again, it's a meat product, but it's mostly the belly fat of a pig. So yeah, not a great protein source. Cream cheese, I don't know how it really made the list. but cream cheese is definitely not a protein source. And I guess I should add this because I've had this conversation with people before. We're going to go with cheese in general, late addition. We're adding that to the list at the last minute. Yeah, cheese. I don't care if it's cheddar, Gruyere, Gouda. It doesn't matter. It's a delicious source of fat. It's not a protein source. All right. So that's my list of protein sources and a few things that people think are sources of protein that I would not consider as passable sources of protein. I hope this was helpful. If you liked it, like, follow, subscribe, all that jazz. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.